Industries that are hot, sectors set to outperform the market. That's what's here in Zacks Industry Rank Analysis. Let's check out the latest industry analysis that Mr. Charles Rotblut has for us on this industry rank analysis piece here. And on his radar this week is retail. I think it's been on his radar for a while now, but he just brought it to the forefront this week. Let's put it that way. Glad to have you with us again, sir. You're bringing out two different points that have been conflicting for a while. I mean, retail stocks have been performing fairly well for a large portion of this year. However, that's not necessarily translated in the top line earnings growth for those same retailers, right?
No, it hasn't. I think it's not there's a disconnect, but stock price is doing one thing and earnings are doing the other. And what you're seeing with the stock price, and really what you're seeing with the earnings estimate revisions, is that the retailers are performing better than people feared. For most retailers, not all, but for the majority, we are seeing sales decline, both total sales and same-store sales. And same-store sales is a key metric. It's really how did sales perform for a location that's been open at least 12 months or longer. So you want to see sales improve year over year for a store, say in your local mall, that existed a year prior. We're not seeing it. It's not surprising. We're in a recession. 1 out of 6 Americans is either unemployed or involuntarily working part-time jobs. But what we are seeing is that the retailers, their numbers are holding up pretty well, all things considered. And I think a big part of that, the retailers have really adjusted their inventory levels, and they've been able to control the discounting mechanisms. They're still, putting things on discounts, but they're trying to watch how much stuff goes on clearance. And as I mentioned in this week's piece, there are a couple of retailers that are actually doing well despite the recession that's going on.
And are the ones, do you find, who are reporting both sales and earnings growth, are they more or less in the specialty retail niche, or are there some broad-based?
It's kind of broad. I mean, we do see some retailers, actually the discounted retailers, and we've talked about them before, actually doing quite well. Your dollar stores, your discount chains, they're doing quite well. But there's some other ones that just seem to be hitting the right niche. One of the companies I actually mentioned here is Aeropostale. One of the things their president and actually their chief merchandise buyer said on the conference call is that teenagers, and that's who they cater for, is teenagers, really can't get enough of anything that has their name on it, whether it be a polo, whether it be a tee. So they're just hitting the right chord with their target audience and selling clothes that people want at prices they're willing to pay. Right. But we are seeing some other retailers doing well, and it's a mixed bag, and it's not necessarily one thing. Overall, if I had to target one segment within the retail sector that's doing well, I would probably say the discount retailers, and I would probably also put the automotive retailers in that group too, simply because people are keeping their cars longer. Not really sure what effect cash for clunkers had on them yet, because certainly some of the cars that maybe people were thinking about keeping for a few years longer, now they are able to cash in. On the flip side, if you had someone driving, say, a 99 Corolla, or maybe they had a 2000 Honda Civic, they didn't qualify for that cash for clunkers. Even if you had something a little bit bigger like a Camry or an Accord, they didn't qualify. So then you still might have people that have a car that didn't qualify for cash for clunkers, but it's old enough to where maybe they should sell it, but they're not, because the car obviously has more value to them as a car that starts in the morning than it can actually get in a trade-in or selling it via Craigslist.
Yeah, that's true. There's a feeling out there on the street that as long as earnings continue to weigh on consumers' minds, spending is likely going to remain somewhat constrained. You agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. And even in the Conference Board's survey of consumer sentiment, they actually referenced that yesterday. We did see an improvement. It rose to about 54. We'll actually get revised University of Michigan numbers later out this week, but I do think consumers are going to be cautious. People have cut back, and even though sentiment's looking a little bit up, the reality is the employment picture is still difficult. Like I said, many people are still unemployed, and I think consumers are going to remain frugal. We have seen some signs that things are getting a little bit better. Certainly the economy is doing a little bit better. We're seeing housing improve a little bit. Earlier today, I actually was running through some numbers. I saw Tempur-Pedic now is Zacks #1 or Zacks #2 ranked stock, and it looked like some people had raised estimates on there. So we are seeing some signs that consumer spending is getting a little bit better, but I think by and large, we're still in a period where we're going to see same-store sales suffer. It's worth noting, though, as we get towards the fourth quarter, the comps will be easier for these retailers simply because we're going to start getting towards the heart of the recession where we saw sales being depressed. So we could end up getting to a point where we see sales that aren't that good, but they look better relative to a year prior, simply because we're starting to get to the point where the year prior numbers are going to be really depressed. Not quite there yet, but it could actually end up making Thanksgiving, Christmas sales look better in comparison, because last year we had some weakness.
That's interesting. The today that Charles mentioned is the 26th of August. That's the day that we are having this conversation, he and I. And he, in his text version of this week's Industry Rank, brings up the issue of other retailers achieving growth by expansion. You could read more about that in the text version of this piece by going to Zacks.com's homepage and scrolling down the homepage until you get to the Industry Rank Analysis banner and headline right underneath it. With Charles Rotblatt, I'm Terry Ruffalo.